what are the situations when a company should consider a sustainability study? On this slide, we tried to identify a few of the inflection points in the life cycle of an ESOP company that might prompt either a board or a trustee or management of the company, some stakeholder, to decide that they want to do a more formal look at this and be able to come up with an analysis to help frame their decision making. So based on experience that Prairie has had with conducting these studies and assisting clients for about 10 years or so at this point, right, Franco? In terms of
right.
Number of how long that we've been doing this. These are some, not all, obviously, but some of the common times that we see companies reaching out and saying, hey, we need to take a closer look at this. One is that shares in the ESOP suspense account are fully allocated or close to being fully allocated to current participants. This is what we'll sometimes refer to as a mature ESOP situation. So when an ESOP is formed, you have an internal loan. We'll talk a little bit further about the trends in that direction. But as that internal loan is being paid off each year, more and more shares are being released. So a true mature ESOP would be one that's close to or at the point at which they no longer have any additional shares left to allocate.
Yeah, and I would say probably from an annual timing perspective, we definitely find it useful to conduct these studies soon thereafter the annual valuation. So the valuation is a key component here, and having kind of those assumptions in good form, you know, kind of leads to just a good segue, if you will, into the analysis piece. And cadence, what would you say, Dave? What it's not necessarily they need to do it every year, but
every couple 3 years we start seeing companies come back and ask for a second study because things have changed, and you know, we'll do an update.
Yeah,
that's pretty common as well.
For sure. And we were talking earlier today, we're seeing an uptick for summer projects on sustainability. And I feel like sometimes a special event, maybe kind of a recessionary or slowdown, something that is unique, that is unexpected, is another great avenue, right, to conduct a sustainability, to get a feel and sense of, you know, what potential outcomes could be, right? And so kind of get a feel of visibility on that front. So.
For sure. Okay. Yeah. So that was mature ESOPs, and then even as the second box there indicates, even companies that are not at that stage of maturity, maybe they're in the early years following the formation of the ESOP. And Franco, I know you're going to talk a little bit about this with regard to valuation related topics. Usually that first ESOP allocation after a new one is formed is kind of underwhelming to the participants, the number of shares and the value of those shares because of all the debt and so forth. So we'll sometimes see ESOP companies that contribute more than they're required to under the terms of the loan. But then as those shares are released and some of the debt is being paid off, that share price tends to accelerate very rapidly in those early years, and it may create an outsized benefit level. So we'll sometimes see ESOP companies that look back and say, gee, we're only 3 or 4 years into this. We've got a pretty high percentage of the shares already allocated. The benefit levels are significant, which is great from our participants' perspective, but is it sustainable? Can we keep providing this level of benefit over a longer period of time? So we'll see companies look to entertain a sustainability study maybe earlier in the process than we once thought.
Yeah, and on the early stage, I do think too that education is a good way. So a sustainability study could be a good way to get the board engaged and also educate them about their options. So I think at that stage, that way you can prepare and be a little bit more proactive than if you're faced with kind of one of these events that you're kind of being reactive to a situation. So that way, I think early stage education is a good way to be ahead of any potential challenges down the road, I'd say. So
for sure. And then the last one on this page is repurchase obligations. We'll spend more time talking through that as well. But certainly, you know, when companies become concerned about how they're going to manage the cash flows of the business, when you have these large repurchase obligations that you're staring at, as well as the other cash needs of the business, that will oftentimes prompt a study as well.
Yeah, absolutely.